I think AI building is not for the weak. There are definitely a specific set of soft skills that you need to be able to go into this. You have to check your ego at the door. You have to be ready for adaptable expectations. You need to be flexible with what your role is and how it spills into other roles.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Peer Review. Today, we've got Sarah Bhatia with us. Sarah is the Director of AI Product Innovation at Slingshot and an adjunct professor in AI at the University of Louisville. She's got a decade of experience in product leadership, and she also really focuses on how do you make AI practical, human, accessible. She's a frequent speaker known for her ability to translate complex AI concepts into clear, actionable insights. She's got a couple of really interesting frameworks we're going to talk about today, which I'm really excited to delve into because I think making AI effective does require changing how you work. And so we're going to talk about that with Sarah. Great, Sarah. Welcome. And thanks for taking some time to talk with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You have a Substack and you made a post about that clear communication beats prompt engineering. And I kind of think people know that, but at the same point, I'm not sure that they're really doing it, you know? And so I'd love to just delve into that. Can you unpack that a little bit for us?
Sure. I mean, I don't think prompt engineering is going anywhere, to be clear. I think that it's still a really important part of using AI effectively. But I feel like over the last couple months, it's been so buzzy almost with how people are talking about prompting and the importance of prompting. And it really just feels like it's being beaten into all of us in the industry. And I worry that we're losing sight a little bit around what the core skill set is that makes a great prompt. And it's really just communication. It's making sure you're articulating what you want, what you expect, and what the expected outcome is. And I think that's far more important than making sure you're ticking every box in a prompt structure.
Yeah, there was actually a recent paper, I think, that came out of Stanford where they actually tested 100,000 prompts and they ran them through, and they actually found that just kind of there was prompt engineering wasn't, in some ways, it wasn't as important as people thought, but it was more about, like you said, kind of just clearly communicating the constraints and what you wanted.
I
Now,
totally agree. I find myself getting better results and more naturally giving more context when I'm actually using voice mode in a lot of my LLMs. I think sometimes when I'm writing something out and trying to get a result, I do tend to fall into really leaning hard on that structure and checking boxes of what I need to be inputting. Whereas if I'm just having a conversation with
yeah.
my robot assistant, I think sometimes I get better results.
So, one of the things interesting about this is I was talking to one CTO who's like, well, a lot of engineers are not great communicators. I mean, look, to be a great engineer, I think you have to be a very clear thinker, right? Because you're trying to take
Mhm.
some complex problem and you're trying to break it down and structure it. How am I going to design, architect the system? But they're not always great communicators of that. And so how do you feel like that's kind of playing out here as, we talk about great communication with AI?
Yeah, I think with engineers especially, there's a really huge opportunity to lean on AI to actually highlight and help close the gaps in some of those shortcomings. So I've seen a lot of really successful AI engineers and architects using AI tools to push back on where holes are in requirements, to challenge some of the plans that they have for a build, and seeing really great results come out of that.
Yeah, that's totally true. All right, let's talk a little bit about maybe efficiency and opportunity. So a lot of times I think people are sort of saying, okay, how do I take what I'm doing today and how do I make it faster? So kind of make the
Mhm.
existing thing faster. I guess you've been kind of talking about this co-thinking approach, and that's where you think, I guess you called it the new gold rush. So maybe what does that mean? What is co-thinking and how do you use that?
Oh yeah, I talk about co-thinking like it's my job all day, which sometimes it is. I think efficiency AI is just that. It's looking at how can I take the old stuff or the stuff I'm already doing and just do that thing faster and maybe marginally better. I think if you really want to level up with how you're using these AI tools, it's less about doing something faster and more about doing something exponentially better. So using AI really more as a collaborator to give you more insights, to test out ideas, to really poke holes in your plans and your thinking, and really uncover and elevate to do something new that would have been impossible or more impractical before.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of interesting. I think my co-founder Anand, our CTO, he talks a lot about like using it as a collaborator. Like, hey, give me some ideas about how to do this, or like, and
Absolutely.
then like you talked about earlier, like the pushback and kind of that iterative approach, like you're interacting with another smart person sitting next to you.
And it's a thought partner, really, and it's a thought partner that you're not afraid to ask a dumb question to or have a dumb idea in front of, right? It's a judgment-free collaborator where you can experiment, you can suss out ideas and see if something's got legs. I, like you said, love using it to poke holes in ideas, but I also love to give it an idea and ask it to expand upon that and see if it takes me in a direction that I wouldn't have thought of myself.
So I guess you also have this other framework. You talked about the 5 day build. I mean, assuming that you're saying building something start to end in 5 days, I mean, that sounds pretty fast. Can you just talk us through kind of how you're inventing your guys' product development process with that?
It's wild. It's a 5-day rapid prototyping sprint. So we take what Slingshot is already really great at process wise and skill set wise, and we just condense it using these AI tools. So we start on day one with assessing feature ideas, working with clients to really get through that initial discovery process that typically would have taken several weeks, using those AI tools to speed up that process. And then, like I said, really using co-thinking to expand on ideas that we're already having and see if we can get to that final better result faster. Day two, we're really diving into design and architecture of how we want to build the thing. And then day 3 through 5, we're having these super fast development cycles. So we're using tools like Cursor, sometimes Lovable, it's a little more basic, things like Cloud Code to stand up a prototype that really can help prove out an idea and see if these features have some validity.
And then how far would you say that prototype is from, a production level kind of app? And I'm sure it can vary, but I'm just curious. Yeah.
It really You're right, absolutely right. It really varies depending on how complex the product is. And it kind of depends on what the ask is. We've had clients come to us that are from startups that really just want to use a prototype to get their idea on paper and use it for funding. We've had other clients where we've taken the prototype and a few weeks later dove straight into a large build where the vast majority of that is fully reusable. It really is more about taking a look at that prototype and seeing what's truly MVP and what things can we cut or maybe save for later. But it's continuously shocking how far you get on that front end build through the prototyping process. The tools that we have today have been able to take a process that typically took months and legitimately condense it to 5 days.
Yeah. Well, and so what is the impact you're seeing kind of on the team there? Like, one is people feel a lot of pressure trying to get things done so quickly. And then maybe also like, there's been a lot of talk about roles blurring, right? Designers and PMs. People are like, there's not going to be designers anymore. There's not going to be PMs anymore. Then it's like the PM and engineer are blurring together. So just curious how you see some of that playing out so far.
You know, I think AI building is not for the weak. There are definitely a specific set of soft skills that you need to be able to go into this. You have to check your ego at the door. You have to be ready for adaptable expectations. You need to be flexible with what your role is and how it's filled into other roles. I think there is definitely a specific personality that enjoys the pressure of that condensed build timeline, and it is not for everyone. You're absolutely right. There's a lot of overlap between the team. I think it's a willingness to get uncomfortable. It's really being able to sit in that discomfort and understand that, these tools are new and they are the worst they will ever be, right?
Right.
And even at their worst right now, they are incredible. They're absolutely changing how we're building things, but that requires some patience, some flexibility, some lowering of expectations, and then continuously being ready to have your mind blown by what some of these tools can do right now.
Yeah. And what about the team? The role kind of blurring aspect. Like, are you seeing that, or how do you think that
Oh
that's
yeah,
playing out?
definitely. We are all kind of melding into one super developer designer product mashup, right? Um, we are fortunate that we at Slingshot have developers who are also great teachers. So they're willing to kind of get down in the trenches with the product and the design teams as we get our feet wet in a terminal for the first time. They're really patient with teaching us kind of how to commit code and what that process looks like. And I think, frankly, they're enjoying being able to be in more of the oversight architect role and kind of letting us play junior developers a little bit while also bringing our skill sets to the table of fleshing out a product, feature functionality, and that UX UI within a project. So I think it is a little bit of being secure in what value you're bringing to the team and
Yeah.
understanding that that value is still there in the same way that it was, but the tactical execution is very, very different and it is overlapping with each other pretty constantly.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of think like these roles are not really going to uh, change in the professional aspect of it. But what I do think is that you can, like a PM, if they want to like prototype a design or get like a first pass at
Hmm.
design, they can do that with Lovable or some agentic coding tool or whatnot and say, okay, I have a first pass design. Now, I'm not a designer, so it doesn't mean necessarily I've thought everything through and the interaction models, but at least it's something you can react to, right? Um,
Exactly.
or like you said, it's like, oh, if I'm an engineer and I like really was not a designer, it's like, oh, now I can make something and kind of try to get my point across. Or maybe I'm a designer and now I can like build something basic to kind of show you what I was thinking. Um, but it feels like you still need the engineer to build that production quality app. You still need a PM to really think about, hey, what customer need is this meeting? Should we even be building this feature, et cetera, et cetera. And then of course it's
Exactly.
so,
And I think what we're really seeing is that ultimately our core skill sets are still remaining the same. You still
yeah,
have a product person thinking like a product person. You still have a designer who's bringing that UX expertise and that aesthetic eye to the table. And you still have an engineer figuring out how to make it all work, right? Those skill sets are still there, but the actual tactical execution is what is vastly different than it was a year ago. And that is uncomfortable some days. Some days it's really exciting and it's awesome to get to see an idea come to life and stand up without needing a full fledged team. But it can also certainly be challenging.
yeah, totally. So now let's say you've got like, I mean, I feel like a lot of engineering teams have been obviously using AI coding tools and code review tools or testing tools or whatever, but they're not like, I wouldn't say that they've yet really dramatically changed kind of how they work, and really built
Hmm.
a set of new processes or workflows or kind of told teams, hey, we want you to change how you're doing things versus more it's just like take kind of what you were saying earlier, like take what I'm doing today and just try to do it better or faster with AI.
Hmm.
So what would you recommend to those engineering leaders about how do you really adopt the new paradigm?
Yeah. I mean, I think for us at Slingshot, what we've done is what we're typically recommending our clients do too. It's take a group of people that are enthusiastic about getting uncomfortable with this process change and let them fly. So I think for leadership teams, that means accepting the fact that your billable hours might get a little lower for a little bit because you've got to invest in education and giving your team time to play and sandbox. That's going to be really critical. And then I think it's understanding once that team has gotten skilled up, how does that impact your process? I think something we have really held on to at Slingshot is leaning on our strengths, right? So we already use a lean UX methodology. I think leaning on some of those important components and making sure that, we're still doing what we do best while layering in some of the AI tools is important. But that enthusiastic, excited team that's kind of driving the forefront of these changes within AI are changing everything. So I think to your point, like the majority of our engineers are just taking the tools to use efficiently. But the team that's really focusing on opportunity AI has flipped our process upside down.
Got it. Got it. All right, very cool. All right, so let's maybe wrap up with one bold prediction. Like, how do you how do you think how we build software is going to change? Like where do you think we are 12 to 18 months from now? Like, what's something that you think
Yeah.
going to be a big time difference?
Have you played or seen ChatGPT Pulse yet? You read much about it?
No, no, not very familiar.
So this is where I think we're going in 12 to 18 months. So Pulse is a feature that ChatGPT just rolled out. Right now, it's only for like the very top tier of users. So most people haven't gotten to mess with it yet, but it is proactive insights based on your context. And not to say, I think in 18 months, we're all going to be using Pulse, but I think as far as when we're building software and we're building AI tools, this idea of AI proactively delivering help to your doorstep is where we're going to start seeing UX UI go. I think we've seen for a while this idea of a no interface on the horizon. I think we'll get there, but I think in the next 12 months, this idea that we're not going to be asking AI tools questions, they're going to be coming to us with what we need to be doing. That's going to be the shift we're going to start to see.
Wow. Okay. So moving to much more proactive, right? Yeah. Today, the chatbot is sort of blinking there, waiting for you to ask it something.
Exactly.
But now, like you said, it'll be proactive. All right. Wow.
I think we'll be starting our days with here's what you need and I know best. For better or for worse, I think that's where we're headed.
And you think we'll get there in 12 to 18 months?
I think the people that are power users are there now. So as soon as they can scale that to
Yeah.
be something that we can all use, absolutely.
All right. Great. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. It was great chatting with you. And until next time.
Yeah, thank you so much.